Well, first of all, thank you so very much for having me. And it's for me great to be back here in UAE. And the purpose of the visit is really to regularly come and visit our partners. And UAE is really a strong partner of the World Bank Group. And it's a multifaceted relationship in that we have a fantastic knowledge exchange, which is both bringing global experience to the UAE on a variety of different topics. But increasingly, frankly, it's bringing UAE's extraordinary experience to other countries. So we are working in a number of different sectors and areas like water, like education, like health, like energy, like AI, to really learn from UAE and to be able to bring that to other developing countries, particularly lower income countries that are looking to learn and accelerate their development journeys. So for me, it's great to be here. It's particularly important also to be here at a time when the region is going through great challenges. And that's important to me, overseeing the operations that we have globally.
كما تعلمين البنك الدولي أكد استعداده لتقديم دعم يصل إلى 100 مليار دولار أمريكي للدول المتضررة من الأزمة. ما هي المجالات الرئيسية برأيك التي سيركز عليها هذا الدعم، وكيف يمكنه الحد من الآثار الاقتصادية والاجتماعية للصراع؟
Yes. So this conflict poses a number of different challenges, of course, and this region is, of course, directly impacted, but we see impacts all over the world. And we have developed a sequenced approach to helping countries. In the immediate term, we're really looking to protect people and to foster stability. And a lot of that comes from liquidity, making sure countries have the means, the money, to be able to afford the higher prices that are coming. We see the challenges of higher prices in energy, fertilizer, food, but also be able to secure and protect their populations through social safety nets. The second part is that we don't know the duration and intensity of this conflict, we have also anticipated that we might need up to 100 billion over the next 15 months. But that is combined with both immediate support, but also supporting the job creation agenda and making sure the right policies are in place for enabling, as I mentioned, the requirements for creating these jobs. So as we're focused on liquidity, we're equally focused on the right types of policies, reforms, and making sure countries are prepared for tomorrow.
نعم، البنك الدولي مؤخرا خفض توقعاته للنمو العالمي ل 2.5% لهذا العام، وهو أبطأ معدل منذ جائحة كورونا. ما هي القضية التي تقلق البنك أكثر في هذا الوقت؟ هل هو تباطؤ النمو الاقتصادي أم ارتفاع التضخم أم ارتفاع تكاليف الاقتراض؟
Yes. So we have, in fact, you're right, for 2026, we are downgrading the global economic outlook for countries compared to 2025. We're hoping for a rebound in 2027. But this lower growth is absolutely coming from the increase in prices, the lack of supply, and also the spillover effect it's having on higher inflation, but also the concerns we have about rising debt around the world. So we do see absolutely an increased situation of uncertainty, and uncertainty is never good for growth. To look at it from the developing country perspective, apart from a few countries, the developing countries by far and collectively, most of them over the last decade, have not really kept any progress going when it comes to increasing per capita income to get more at par with advanced countries. And that's concerning because that means that countries are falling behind and we're not creating enough wealth, meaning poverty is so persistent. Likewise, we're increasing the level of inflation around the world as an outcome of this crisis. And we know inflation hurts the poorest the most. And then you mentioned debt. We have seen since 2010 that countries in the developing world are going from about 40% of GDP comprising debt to 70%. This is a huge increase. And with this increase in debt comes higher borrowing cost, but also comes to shrinking fiscal space for spending on anything but debt service. So we're concerned about all three: lower growth, higher inflation, and more pressure from increased levels of debt.
تقريركم يحذر من أن استمرار الصراع في الشرق الأوسط، وخاصة إذا أدى إلى تعطل إمدادات الطاقة، قد يضعف النمو العالمي بشكل أكبر. ما مدى خطورة هذا الخطر على الاقتصاد العالمي؟
Yeah, yeah. The biggest downside risk is really that this conflict continues in terms of duration, and we don't know that. But the downside risk is that growth goes even lower, and that inflation goes even higher, and then all the impacts we see from lower growth and higher inflation get accentuated even more. So that is really the downside risk, and the risk for that scenario to play out is hard to say because we don't know the duration or the intensity of this conflict.
التقرير كذلك يشير إلى أن بعض اقتصادات الخليج المتأثرة بالنزاع قد تشهد تباطؤ في النمو هذا العام قبل أن تتعافى لاحقا. ما مدى استعداد المنطقة لإدارة هذه الفترة من عدم اليقين؟
Yeah, so this region is definitely directly impacted. And we see that through a number of different, what we call transmission channels. First and foremost, if you are a oil exporter, the country is, of course, directly impacted because of the impact of the conflict. And that is, of course, affecting the export earnings, it's affecting growth, it's affecting revenues. But we also see it in other transmission channels. Take tourism and aviation, for example. Both are down. Take trade and the connectivity that we see. It's also being affected, and that's, of course, a problem. And then another issue that we see coming out of the Gulf, not so much impacted in the Gulf, but countries around the world, is remittances that come out of the Gulf and are being sent back to countries, is also being impacted. So the impact, I would say, in the MENA region, in the Gulf, is pretty significant because of the direct impact of the conflict. Now, how prepared and how resilient are economies? It's quite different and varied across the region. But what we have seen is diversified economies tend to do a bit better, and many countries in the region had already started the diversification towards non-oil sectors, and that gives some buffers, if you will. The second is that sound macro and fiscal management has helped many countries because the fiscal space to be able to buffer this type of conflict is quite significant, and that's helpful. And then the other thing is that many countries have actually started the path towards generating a business environment where companies have been coming, investing in the countries, and there's a business environment that allows for investment, which maintains jobs and continues to create jobs. So we think that overall the region is actually quite resilient, which is very good. And I think the message there is the best recipe for being prepared for a conflict and being resilient is actually having reformed and having put in place those sound macro fiscal foundations.